Let's do this.
Humble hillocks,
Modest mounds.
everyday elevations,
Petty prominences.
low-down lumps.
Low-down lumps.
Welcome to MapMen.
We're the men.
And here's the map.
Low down lumps.
Hills. Britain's littered with them.
In fact, hardly any Britain isn't hills. And as a result, you might not even realise when you're standing on one.
And hills have an even bigger problem when
I
it comes
never
to
knew
grabbing our
that,
attention
actually.
or being selected as our desktop background. Namely, they're not mountains.
The exact difference between a hill and a mountain has been heavily argued, but the one thing everyone agrees is that mountains, with their jagged, craggy edges and majestic snow-capped peaks, are dramatic and exciting, but hills are boring.
You might therefore expect the stories of how our hills are formed to be as boring as the hills themselves, but this is not the case.
Because, like the tin of sardines my granddad wrestled from Hitler during World War II, the object itself is unremarkable, but the story behind it is riveting.
Welcome to MapMen.
What the
Wait a
hell?
minute, we've done this bit.
Let's take a look at a boring English hill with a surprising backstory.
Here's one. It's called Windover Hill, and it's found right in the middle of the Sussex South Downs. But it's not here because of anything that happened in Sussex, or even Hampshire. It's here because of Africa.
That sounds far-fetched.
Shouldn't the Cerne Abbas giant be in Dorset?
How?
He's something of a free spirit. Anyway, are you trying to suggest this hill hasn't just always been here?
That's right, and you can tell just from looking at me, because as you can clearly see, this hill is made of chalk.
I thought the Long Man of Wilmington was made of concrete breeze blocks.
That was a conservation decision. Not everyone wants to fully expose themselves.
Bah.
Anyway, the point is, this hill is made of chalk, and that tells you that this hill used to be flat.
Surely not. Tell me more.
Almost all the world's chalk was formed in a very specific way at a very specific time. 100 million years ago, during the Cretaceous period, Sussex was underwater. And the sea was full of tiny creatures like foraminifera and coccolithophores, which had tough shells and exoskeletons.
I get
When
it
these
now.
creatures died, they sank to the seabed and slowly got squished down flat by more and more layers of shells and skeletons. And over millions of years, these tiny bones compacted into the horizontal layers of chalk we find today. Hello.
But that can't be right. You're a hill.
Yes, because it turns out rocks can
I never knew where chalk comes from. I never thought about it. That's crazy. How have I never thought about where chalk comes from? And it makes sense that this hill exists because people were mining here and it turned into a hill.
move.
What? How?
To understand, we need to go back in time 200 years to look at a very clever map made by a very clever man called William Smith.
William Smith was a rather boring man with the rather boring job of surveying the construction of the Somerset Coal Canal, which he was doing when he noticed something only a boring person would notice.
Staring at the sides of the canal, Smith spotted that there were different types of rock piled on top of each other. And these layers, or strata, each had their own sets of fossils that got older the deeper the layers went.
Smith hypothesized that by looking at the different layers of rock underground, he'd find clues as to when and how the landscape above the ground had formed. Rocks, he suspected, told
Smith.
stories.
Determined to find out more, he took his rock hammer with him everywhere he went, banging on about rocks so much that he earned himself the nickname William Strata Smith.
Smith began to map his findings, hoping it would help unlock the ancient stories of the landscape. But part of the picture just wasn't enough. There was only one thing for it.
There is only one thing for it. I shall have to survey the entire length and breadth of Great Britain. That will be very interesting.
What was this
Nobody
guy
had ever
on?
completed a complete geological survey of Britain anywhere in the world before. But in 1800, Smith and his rock hammer began their monumental task, a journey of more than 10,000 miles by horse and by foot, leaving quite literally no stone unturned.
So this guy was surveying Great Britain with a hammer and a horse? Hey, man. He had nothing to do. I get that he was doing surveys, but come on, bro. A hammer and a horse? You got time.
Until 15 years later, Smith finally unveiled his iconic map.
After 15 years.
Citizens Advice Bureau. Come in.
Is this an ad? It's an ad. I'm not falling for it.
I'm here because I've had my identity stolen.
I knew it.
Well, I was on the internet using various websites that provide a service but don't charge for it, when I suddenly remembered that these companies make their money by taking people's personal data and selling it to data brokers, which left me completely exposed to data
That's
breaches
what
and
they
identity
do.
theft, and my identity was completely stolen.
Is that why you haven't got a face?
No, I'm wearing my clothes backwards.
Well, what I recommend you do is go back in time to ages ago and use Incogni, the sponsor of this video. Incogni is an automated service that searches for data brokers and contacts them on your behalf.
I never
with legal
knew
demands
like
to delete
these
your personal
free
data
like
from their
websites
databases,
do
keeping
that.
them regularly updated and keeping your identity
Like-
safe online.
Ah, yes, I've heard of Incogni. Apparently they have a custom removals
It all
feature,
makes sense
allowing you to
now.
also input a link where you found your data online, and Incogni's privacy specialists will take care of the rest.
Did you know you can get a discount by clicking on the link in the description and using the code MapMen to get 60% off an annual subscription?
No, but I'll go back in time and sign up ages ago right now. Mind if I borrow your time machine?
No, go ahead. Careful with that thing.
Having painstakingly walked across every square inch of Britain, William Smith was finally ready to unveil his groundbreaking rock map.
And he called it a delineation of the strata of England and Wales with parts of Scotland exhibiting the collieries and mines, the marshes and fenlands originally
What a long
overflowed by
name,
the sea,
bro.
and the varieties of soil according to the variations in the substrata illustrated by the most descriptive names.
Smith's map showed Great Britain as it had never been seen before. The carpet of green grass was stripped away to
Yeah, strata. Bro had some. It has to be some level of like autism, because you don't just do that.
reveal swirls and folds and swooshes and scrunchy little wrinkles of lots of different coloured rocks. It is genuinely my favourite map.
The striking colours were not chosen at random. Each one reflected the rock type they represented, such as yellow for the Jurassic limestone of the Cotswolds,
Where the houses tend to be yellowy coloured,
red for the iron-rich clays of Lancashire,
where the houses tend to be reddy coloured.
and green for the chalky
Oh!
hills of the South Downs.
That doesn't make sense. Chalk's white.
Well, if they left it white, it would just look like it was blank.
Fair enough. And Smith's clever colour coding didn't stop there. If you zoom in, you'll see that each colour is shaded along a gradient of dark to light. The darker edges mean that the rock meets an older layer next to it, and the lighter edges mean the rock meets a younger layer. This was important because it meant that Smith's map not only showed what rock
The
was where,
chalk
but
is
when
at
rock
the
was where,
very
which
end.
together helped explain how rock was.
Here, at Windover Hill on the South Downs.
Finally.
Looking at Smith's map, you can see that the long, chalky, hilly South Downs sit opposite a remarkably similar geological feature 30 miles to the north. The long, chalky
Man, I feel so stupid because I've always seen like videos of Great Britain and like the edges. I've always seen them. They look white. But I never thought, that's where chalk comes from.
hilly North Downs, with a big splodge of older rocks in between.
It was a tantalising clue that the South Downs Hills might be part of a much bigger rock story, literally.
Viewed from the side, the North and South Downs are an uncannily symmetrical mirror image, with gentle slopes on the outside and steep slopes on the inside. And if you join up the dots, it's clear they were once connected, forming part of a much bigger hill, the middle of which has since been eroded away by wind and water.
So, if the North Downs and the South Downs were once part of a much bigger hill, with chalk, which can only form when it's flat, like curved on top of it, how did Smith explain how that massive hill got there in the first place?
He didn't and couldn't. He'd have to wait more than 100 years until he was dead to find out the answer.
But I want to know the answer now!
Hocutus, pocutus, obbledygeecher, it's time to summon a geography teacher!
Right, settle down. In 1912, a German scientist called Alfred Wegener put forward the idea of plate tectonics. He said that the Earth's crust was made up of tectonic plates which moved around. But this was just a theory until 50 years later, sonar technology allowed them to finally prove that he was right. Now, first, they thought the plates moved because of convection currents deep within the mantle. But now they think it's more to do with gravity and something called slab pull. None of this is important. What is important is that when two plates are
And I thought I was smart talking about like people were mining it. Whole time it's just tectonic plates.
pushing into each other, things get pretty explosive. We're talking mountains, we're talking volcanoes, we're talking earthquakes. It's exciting stuff. Now, here in Britain, as you can see, we're nowhere near any plate boundaries, so we don't get this sort of excitement. But there is one here. The African plate has been pushing into the Eurasian plate for 65 million years, pushing up the Alps in an event known as the Alpine orogeny. No sniggering, that's orogeny with an O. And this same earth-shattering force was so huge, it created a ripple effect all the way over here in England. That's right. Africa pushing into Europe at a fault line thousands of miles away has pushed up the Chilterns, the White Cliffs of Dover, and a once very big hill in Sussex whose middle has since eroded down to leave behind the steep North and South Downs that we see today. Now try telling me that hills can't be fascinating.
Yes, sir.
I liked him.
So now we know our chalky southern hills were made all the way in Africa. But what about Britain's other hills? Are they also the ripples of collisions thousands of miles away? Were the Cotswolds created in Canada?
Were the peaks put together in Patagonia?
Were the Cheviots chiseled in China?
No.
Oh.
And they didn't need to be, because something else Smith never found out. The majority of Britain's hills
Chiseled
were
in
much longer
China.
ago and much closer to home.
Welcome to MapMen.
We're the men.
And oh no, we've definitely done this.
We've
Definitely
done
done
it.
it. Definitely. 450 million years ago, a supercontinent called Laurentia, which had future Scotland on it, was moving very slowly towards a microcontinent called Avalonia, which had future England on it. When they finally collided, the force created dozens of volcanoes and a mountain range as big as the Himalayas. Boffins call this the Caledonian orogeny.
Over the years, these enormous
The
mountains were eroded down
Caledonian
by ice sheets,
orogeny.
mostly, rivers and wind, a bit, and people walking their dogs, hardly at all, into a mixture of much smaller mountains and, of course, hills, including the Trossachs Hills in Scotland,
The Cheviot Hills in Northumberland.
the Lake District Hills in Cumbria.
Now that I think about it, as the UK, this is off topic by the way, is the UK paved because it rains a lot there? Or what? Or is this a European thing that they pave everywhere? But it does make sense for like the UK to be paved. I don't want to be walking on mud the whole time.
Yeah.
And this hill in Edinburgh that Edinburgh Castle is on top of. Britain banging into itself at an explosive plate boundary? That sounds like a unique and historic event.
It was. But then it happened again.
100 million years later, a different giant landmass called Gondwana, which had future tip of Cornwall on it, smashed into La Russia, which had future rest of Britain on it, resulting in a load more mountains and a load more volcanoes. Boffins called this the Variscan orogeny.
Which, once again, have been slowly beaten down into picturesque hills, including
The Shropshire Hills in Shropshire,
the Malvern Hills in Worcestershire,
Millick Haven in Cornwall,
and the Peak District Hills in, the Peak District. So Britain's hills are not, as it might be tempting to imagine them, the blank canvas onto which our history began, but they have their own varied and exciting orogeny stories.
and that's something we would never have been able to understand were it not for the
Orogeny
brilliant, boring brain
stories.
of William Smith.
But what happened to Smith himself? Was he rightly feted and celebrated for his achievement in his lifetime?
Yes! Sorry, I mean no! The work Smith had put into producing his map left him impoverished, indebted, and imprisoned. It was only years
Wow.
after his death its significance was fully realised.
Not only did the colourful swirls and patterns on his map unlock clues to the mysteries of the landscape, they were fundamental in helping the operations of mining companies, water companies, engineering companies, and facilitating the Industrial Revolution.
Until finally, decades after his death, he was given the much less boring nickname, the Father of English Geology.
Thank you.
In the end, the story of William Smith is similar to the story of this hill.
What, boring?
Boring at first glance, but brought to life by Mark's favourite map.
Yay!
Please put some trousers on.
I won't.
He's a great map maker, a landscape charter, showing and shading the
Man, I learned something today. I don't know why I thought people were mining there. The whole time it was just like tectonic plates. And then they fall. I should have thought tectonic plates in the first time. That's where hills and mountains come from. I don't know what I was thinking, but yeah, I enjoyed this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it too. I will be reacting to more MapMen video, so be on the lookout for that. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Help me get to 1,000 subscribers. And on that note, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.